I'm alive because
I'm alive because
I'm alive.
my 5 awesome kids.
I'm alive.
I'm still alive today because I heard your podcast.
Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of the I'm Alive Because podcast. I'm your host, Sara, and today you're going to meet Damien. Damien is honestly such an incredible human. I had such a good time talking with him. We got down on, of course, mental health, but our love of Harry Potter and being pet parents and just life. I can't wait for you to listen to his truly vulnerable and authentic story about a time in his life where he wasn't sure he was going to live to the day that we would record this podcast and what his life looks like now. Stay tuned, listen, enjoy my interview with Damien. Damien, welcome to the I'm Alive Because podcast.
What's up? What's up?
Thanks so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, no problem. Of course.
And see you. So for everyone listening, Damien and I are Skyping, so I get to see his face.
Yeah, we are actually also both on a super warm beach in some tropical area sipping mimosas right now.
Oh, that's exactly what we're doing.
Of course.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Portland is like telling us that the weatherman has been telling us that we're going to have snowmageddon. Second year in a row that they're promising us like 2 feet of snow, right? I've seen maybe 12 snowflakes.
Yeah, we're supposed to get a bunch of snow this weekend here in Chicago too. And, you know, my wife's supposed to do something with her coworkers on Saturday night. And then I'm supposed to go to our other friend's house and watch the Conor McGregor fight. So it's we're not expecting too much snow, honestly.
Yeah. I've never been to Chicago, but don't you guys get like colder winters than we get?
I woke up this morning and it was a lot colder than I expected. It was like my remote start almost did not work coming out of lunch at work.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, all right, this is great. Well, whatever. It's life.
Yeah, one of these days I'm going to get out there. All right, tell everyone listening who you are, what you do, and why you care about mental health.
So, my name is Damien Savorgino. I actually turned 29 in 13 days from the date of this recording. I am married to my wife, Kaylee, and one little things about me, what a lot of people assume just by going through like my Instagram or Facebook. You know, obviously I love my wife. You know, I have 2 cats, a white cat, Theodore, and a black cat, Charlie. I care a lot about those 2. You know, I take care of my beard pretty well, and I love death metal, which is something we'll touch on later. I drive a reach truck for a car part manufacturer company here in Chicago area. I also run Between the Lines Media, name drop. I started that up, review music. We do live photos. We sponsored Michigan Metal Fest last year. Why I care about mental health? There's a couple, I guess you could say a variety of reasons, but one, it's something I struggled with, all my life. Obviously we all have peaks and valleys. We all do have great days. We all have really bad days. But stemming from little bits of like throughout school, reaching more into adult life, mental health is definitely much more prevalent now. And I feel like it's a lot easier to talk about now versus like 10 years ago. So seeing, a podcast like this or, a couple of my friends, it's a lot more comfortable talking about now than it was.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, 10 years ago, you would have had to like drag me down a dark alley to admit that I was struggling. Like my life would have had to have been dependent on me admitting that there was stuff going on.
Yeah, it was. I think actually what we're going to touch on was about 8 years ago. So this will be kind of perfect. But 10 years ago, I think that was 2010. I just got out of high school at that point.
Yeah, that's funny. So you're how old are you going to be in 13 days?
I turned 29 in
Okay.
13 days.
Yeah, we were getting out of high school around the same time. And I surely wouldn't have been telling people my stuff. But why don't you go ahead and tell us what was going on for you in March 2012? I know that that was maybe a time of adversity for you, pretty severe adversity from what we've talked about. And um, yeah, I'd really like to hear about how that's kind of impacted you and led you to this place that you're at now.
So, kind of before we touch on that, because it kind of stems a little bit even before that. Um, During all throughout school, from the moment I was in kindergarten, I never, it was hard for me to make friends, which we all know as a kid, or as a child, you kind of rely on having friends. And not being able to fit in, it hurt, of course. There was a time where I invited like four of who I thought were my closest friends to like a sleepover, and we played Tony Hawk Underground on my PlayStation 2. Three of them went home because they were bored. I'm like, well, sorry, we're kind of broke. We don't have a whole lot of stuff to offer. You know, things like that hurt. You know, go through high school, I was on the football team, and you would think being on the football team, I'd be like one of these, popular kids and have all the friends. I had a few. There were a couple of the kids on the team where I got along with no problem. Um, but there was the assholes, you know, because we all practiced together. Freshmen would practice on their own, but from varsity, of course, no matter what age you were, you practiced with everybody. So if you're a sophomore, you're going up against a senior. And there were a couple of the seniors who were literally just pick on everybody. And I was definitely one of the targets because I was a skinnier kid. I was a little shorter. I wasn't necessarily that good. But the coaches kept me on because I was pissed. Like they saw the fire. Like I wanted to. Like when I did make a hit, it was dramatic. But after high school, kind of went right into working. Um, I used to work at a Target, working the 4 in the morning, unload the trucks, stock the shelves shift, and doing that right out of high school sucked. But it was a job. I had that for about 2.5, almost 3 years. So till about 2012, I had that. Um, Went in one day. It was on March 16th, 2012. I went into work like normal, and they put me on kind of not in the truck unloading. They put me on like on one of the sorting positions, and there was a holdup in the truck, and me and one of my friends we were on opposite ends. We were talking smack a little bit, joking around, like 100% joking around. Somebody overheard, of course, and thought we were going to get physical and like actually fight either during or after. So I guess they went and told the supervisor, boss, whatever you want to call him. And on break time, he calls me into the office. I'm like, okay. And they're like, this was strike three. Because I've been, I've like mixed up my schedules a couple times. because they always posted on just a piece of paper. So I mixed up, went in on a day I shouldn't have, but it's like, well, you're already here, might as well work. And then didn't show up on the days I was really supposed to. So I did that twice in my 3 years there. And they're like, technically, this was strike 3. So I'm like, okay, well, that sucked. So I went home. At this time, the relationship with my dad was not that good. He was an alcoholic, still kind of is, but he's doing way better. And I give him full credit for that. He's cut his intake down quite a bit. But I knew when I was going home, he would be leaving for work. So we lived in these apartments where I could kind of sit across the street from the entrance, and I waited until he left because I knew how bad my dad's anger would get. So I waited until he left, went home or went in and just slept for a few hours. I woke up about 4 hours later and then called him because I knew it was going to be his lunch. And I told him, hey, I got fired today. This is what happened. This is what I'm going to do. I already knew, go to the unemployment office. I started applying everywhere. I went to my grandma's to work on my resume because she was really good at it. And so I had a plan. And of course, things don't necessarily go to plan. So yeah, like I said, March 16th, 2012 was the kind of start of, I guess you could say, the darkest part.
Yeah, so I want to get there, but I want to, first of all, acknowledge my own, and I would not have expected this, but my own, feelings of being triggered or identifying with that whole freshman senior dynamic. They were mean to us little kids.
There were some that were super cool. When I was, I think it was summer between freshman and sophomore. I don't know how, but I ended up dating somebody who was about to become a senior. And, I kind of, got some of the friends there who, they were super cool.
I had a similar experience, and it's funny because I think parents are often just kind of pick it up and keep going. This is what kids do. When you're a senior, you'll get it. You'll be there. But I think you're bringing up a really good point that that can be really damaging to the way that you view yourself. And at 14, that's going to have a pretty big impact on the way that you see yourself as you age.
100%. And of course I did things, that when it wasn't football practice, I was playing video games. I was playing, I was learning Magic the Gathering, the trading card game, super nerdy stuff.
Do you play Dungeons and Dragons?
No, but I honestly would not mind it.
Okay. I have work friends that play Dungeons and Dragons, and it seems so cool. You just get to make up this whole universe and then live it out. I don't understand.
I would totally love to. I just don't get the time.
Yeah.
But, and then I would, my music taste. Even then, I discovered, I think it was, around on my 13th birthday, my dad took me to see Linkin Park right after they put out Meteora. And that was kind of besides, the Metallica, Pantera, Slayer that he would play, that was the first band I kind of discovered on my own besides Slipknot. So I would listen to Slipknot, Linkin Park, I started discovering Lamb of God, just different forms of, metal. And then it also went from to Weird Al, and there was even some poppier stuff, which I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this, but just the boy bands.
Oh yeah.
Huge. stuff like that. So like my music taste was not, it wasn't the same rap and hip hop that everybody on the team was listening to.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes you a target right there.
Yeah. Side note, funniest thing ever. I had like a whole wall of boy band posters that I would pull out of magazines and tape up. And I'm married to a woman. So
Married to who?
I'm married to a woman. So
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I had like Justin Bieber or like whoever else on my wall as a kid. I don't know if I was like really interested or just trying to like live that whole thing out. But
I never got that far. Justin, I'm not a fan of him, but
well, I think he's the same age as me. So when I was like 13, he was so hot.
yeah, I'll give him credit. He has done a lot more as at that age than I ever would have in my life. So I can't hate on him 100%. I just can't stand the music.
Totally. Okay, so we can agree high school is pretty brutal if people don't view you as like one of the norm. And it sounds like you were not seen as one of the insiders when you were playing football. And that's kind of that started to put you on a path of understanding what mental health struggles are.
Yeah, football, just school in general there are obviously, I want to say, there are good parts of it, but it's just the clicks. That's what scares me about the generation after us. Like some of them are getting, I want to say, more and more intense, and with all the mental health stuff now, it kind of scares me for what the future generations are going to be.
Yeah. And you have a younger sister, right?
Yep, I believe she turns. Holy shit! I think she turns 15.
Okay, so she's
14 or
lumped in
15.
there.
But yeah, she's at the age where I started, getting all this shit.
Yeah. Well, we'll loop back to her. But tell me more about, that really intense struggle with your mental health that came after losing the job, and also just the fear of having to say to your dad, like, I lost my job at Target.
So, as I mentioned, the relationship with my dad it wasn't non-existent, because even when he was sober, we had some decent times. But it was definitely at its lowest point around then, maybe just on its decline at that point. So when I went home, like I said, I didn't want to face him yet. I was just not ready to. And I was, when he was going, you don't want to lay news on, like your parent like that when they're going to work. Like they're about to start their day. So now you have to figure out, or they have to figure out what to do. And, of course, I told him my plan. Of course, he was angry, but he straight up told me, because I paid for the internet. I think we had TV at that point. I think that was me as well. And, of course, I paid for my own cell phone. So he told me, he's like, those are your responsibilities. You have to figure it out. So looking back on it now, it was like the tough love at that point. It was like, I'll help you on certain things, but for these non-necessities, that's your problem. So I was like, that's why I had the plan. Over like the next few months, I still hung out with some of the people from Target, who were still my close friends at that point. But it was just slowly fading away. Three of them got kind of an apartment together, which was coincidentally like I could see it from my bedroom window. It was like right down the street. And they I get kind of why they stopped hanging out with me is, I didn't have a job. I didn't have money. They didn't want to be forced to kind of pay for everything. But at that time, you're just like, why are my friends, why are the people who are supposed to be my friends, just straight up abandoning me? So that kind of forced me back into, just like staying in my room, only came out really to eat and use the bathroom or go apply for a job somewhere if a friend, was able to take me. And there was a point where like one of my laptop hard drive, because I had a cheaper laptop, and then I think I still had my desktop back when those were a thing. And one of one of the hard drives was not working. So my old buddy from Target was like, "Hey, drop it off. I'll fix it." So he's like, and then he called me like a few weeks later and he's like, "Hey, I'm done." And I was on my way to go get it. It was, I think, like about 2 months afterwards. You kind of need a hard drive to be able to use your computer. And I needed a computer to kind of apply for jobs. So I was going to get it, and I got into an accident with my dad's second vehicle. And it was totally 100% my fault. But because that was his other vehicle, if his truck broke down, he was screwed. He had no other means to work. So that kind of also put a little bit more fear of, what's my dad going to do? Now, so people don't get the wrong idea. He was never physically abusive. Um, he never laid his hands on me. So I wasn't scared of that. I was more just like scared. And after, that, once again, basically all my friends just stopped talking to me in general, So it came to a point where, I ran out of money. My grandma helped me a little bit, but there was only so much she could do. So I kind of had to start selling some of my things that I worked hard to get. I had one of those, I think it was like 100 and something gig iPod classics, the big chunky guys.
Oh yeah, I remember the little spinny circle.
Um, I bought that on eBay, I think. And then, I had it for a while, but then I had to turn around and sell it because, hey, my phone bill was due. I had to turn around, I had to sell my Xbox, which was like the first game system I bought on my own. And I had to sell that and, all my stuff because I needed money. So that was obviously very, what's the word? I guess heartbreaking. I worked so hard to get these things, but like, hey, these other things take more priority. And having to sell your stuff just to pay your bills, very demotivating. Once again, that just drove me further to where I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't even want to apply for jobs. But of course I did. And what is kind of a reminder now is like we spoke of before, people who do, I don't know if anyone does follow me on Instagram or anything, but my teeth. I stopped taking care of my teeth, very well. So I grew cavities, my teeth started breaking. So I kind of have a permanent reminder now of what things were like back then. And there, as of, I think it was like, say, a month before, things got better. I was finally just like, you know what? I can't fucking do this anymore. I just can't sit here and deal. Like, why do I need to deal with this pain? this hurts. This sucks. I have no friends. I have no money. My parental relationship was trash. And to add to that, my mother was never in the picture. It was just being me and my dad. So my parental relationship was just in the shitter. And I was just done. Like, I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I thought of how, because
How to end your life?
yeah, I thought of it, and why sit here and suffer anymore, So that was pretty much summing up, the hard part was losing your job, regardless of what position you're in, what you do, how much you make, is probably the most heartbreaking thing.
Yeah. So obviously we're here recording this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So something occurred between several months after you lost your job in 2012 and getting you here, where you've got a beautiful wife, you've got your 2 front teeth fixed, you've got 2 cats, you've got your media business, you've got your friends, you've got a better relationship with your father. You've got so many things to live for. At the time, what I'm hearing you say is that you probably had nothing to live for, is what you felt, right?
It's what it felt like. Yeah.
So can you remember the moment when you decided that you're going to stay? I mean, what was that? Which, by the way, I mean, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
That's kind of what this podcast is all about, and what life is all about, and what connection is all about.
I did, of course I knew how I wanted to do it. Just, you never know when, So I was like, you know what? I'm going to sleep on it. And, went to bed. I don't even know what time. It was probably like 2, 3, 4 in the morning because I had nothing to do. What do I care what time I go to bed? And I woke up, I think, to either a text or a call or something from an old buddy. And he's like, hey, we're going to go fishing, at this place, this wildlife foundation, which is actually coincidentally right across town from where I live now. I had no idea. And he was like, hey, we're going to go fishing here. My grandfather has a membership in here and I can use it and I can bring friends with me. I was like, you know what? I have
a question. Why do you need a membership to fish?
It's like a wildlife foundation area. It's not necessarily a public area.
I see.
And at first I asked the same thing. Why do you need a membership to fish somewhere when you can go to a pond right across right down the road? But it's like a huge place. There's like 5 to 7 different, lakes or ponds or whatever. There's a couple man-made ones. It's just a whole preservation area. It's super cool. It's super nice in there.
Okay, sorry, resume.
Oh, you're fine. And so he was like, hey, do you want to go with? I was like, you know what? I haven't been fishing in a while. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? Or in this case, the best thing that could happen. So we were going to go overnight. So they picked me up later. Before we went fishing, a friend of mine sent me this pop artist, which is still one of my favorites. Her name is Lights. She's from Canada. And I forgot what song they sent me, but of course I I looked into it more, but one song that really kind of started sparking little things was a song called "Face Up" that she wrote, and she said, if I remember correctly, she wrote it specifically because she was having a bad day, and it was kind of like that self reminder of it's gonna be fine, you're gonna be okay, it's a bad day, whatever. And for some reason, like that song, just stuck. So then I went fishing. We were out there at midnight casting rods to catch catfish. We went on a Walmart run after we set the rods we just got some snacks. I ended up getting a tube of cookie dough, eating 3/4 of it and getting so sick.
That sounds delicious.
It was the best / worst decision ever.
Yeah.
But we finally fell asleep about 4 something because we were getting no bites. So we woke up a few hours later because it's kind of hard to sleep in a car, especially with 3 other guys. And I found out this band I was kind of following, Whitechapel, they put out a new song, and for some reason it made me super excited. So on the ride home, I was listening to it in my headphones, and you know that feeling. You hear a song, any genre, it doesn't matter, and you're just like, this is great. This is what I needed. And like I said, for some reason, coincidentally, between Lights, Face Up, and Whitechapel, the song, ironically, is Hate Creation. That like one of the lines in there towards the end of it specifically, hate will cleanse us all. I don't know why, but that line was just like, for some reason this is what I needed. And I went home, and I think my dad had my sister at the time, and I don't remember how old she was, but I was like, if I do that now, if I end everything now, what's that going to do to her? The parents, they'll handle it, but a little kid who is growing up with their brother and he's no longer in the picture anymore, like I can't do that. And then that kind of once again coincidentally led to where I'm at now.
Right. So it sounds like your friends maybe just knew that you needed to get out and not catch catfish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it just, it's so funny how, like, I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but and generally I'm not, but I do have these moments where I think that like the universe sends you something. And it sounded like you got sent exactly what you needed to realize life is worth living. And I'm going to keep showing up.
Yeah. I'm not very spiritual at all. I don't, I don't hate on people that are spiritual, they're religious, whatever, that's fine. I don't need it.
Yeah.
But what I do, believe karma is real. If I think that for some reason, why things are getting better is because I went through the shit. Now it's also vice versa, when we have our bad days, I think, is this karma for something? Like, did I do something?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very possible, why that happened is because the universe just knew.
Yeah, and I kind of think, I guess what I meant when I said that was like something happened for your friends in that moment to say, "Hey, we're going to go fishing." And
Yeah.
that triggered something in you to keep going. And then, it's like a marble that goes downhill. Then you hear this song and that makes you realize you can keep going. Then you see this like precious little sister that you have, and that makes you realize you could keep going, right? And then like the marble got you here.
Yeah, and it's funny, like before, obviously way before this, when she was born, to be honest, I hated my sister at first because it kind of took away. Like, I lived with my grandparents at that time she was born. So my dad went over, with the stepmom to kind of help take care of the sister. So, and, so my dad, he was still there, but I didn't see him as much. So at first I was like, this is bullshit. Like, where's my dad? But
I'm a first child, so I completely get that. Like,
yep.
I think I tried to suffocate my brother when he was like a newborn and I was like 3 because I wanted the attention back.
Yeah, it was I don't want to say bad, but yeah, it just was not. Like, I was not her biggest fan.
Yeah.
But then, as you grow up, you know, you kind of realize that's not right. Like, I remember like one memory I still think of, and like I don't think she knows, but there was a time, I got arrested, and it was, I think, the day after, my dad, bailed me out, that I walked downstairs. I think he was still sleeping, or no, I think either he was somewhere else, but my sister was downstairs and she came up to me with open arms. She was still a baby, but she was walking. I'm like, all right, you're not so bad.
Yeah, right. She just wanted to love you.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm super grateful that you shared your story, and I want you to know that um, I hope that it does good for people to hear that you said that you decided you were done, and here you are, almost 10 years later, wife, cats, business, all of these things, and life is worth waking up for every day.
Yeah, it's kind of the main point of all this is like we all, I think the podcast in general, we all struggle. We all kind of struggle sometimes in the same way. It's just different forms. A lot of people who I know, they've had parental issues. Like I mentioned, my mother was never in the picture. From what I understand, she left when I was 1. My dad's had sole custody of me since. Like, he's had legit full custody.
Which 27 years ago would have been very, very rare, by the way. Like, as a
Definitely.
social worker, I know that it's hard for fathers to get sole custody today. So 27 years ago would have been really.
Well, I think it's because, like I said, she just up and left. Nobody could
Yeah.
find her, from what I understand. So, looking back on it now, I give him full credit. He quit school to take care of me. He went straight into working overnights. I think there's a point where he worked 2 jobs. I remember waking up on like a Saturday morning when we used to live in, Fox Lake, Illinois, and he would wake up just enough to make me cereal or teach me how to make my own bowl of cereal, and then he would go back to sleep because he would work construction during the week. Wake up early in the morning, get home super late. And looking back on all of it now, I get why he was a little tough. Of course, once again, I was his firstborn, so he didn't want me to follow. I assume didn't want me to follow the same paths that he did. But now I'm older, seeing that he worked his ass off, that kind of gave me the backbone to, hey, I have to work my ass off. So I think a lot of people can definitely at least connect with the, hey, this guy went through the same parental issue I did. My wife kind of did, just, roles were reversed. Her dad wasn't really there. So when I was, when you're dating someone, you're telling them your whole life story. And, I was telling her all that. She's like, yeah, I get it. Like, all right, cool. And then that's another thing I do kind of want to touch on, to kind of give other people, hey, things get better. After we went fishing, I got a call back from Chipotle and Six Flags. I got the emails back. I got the calls like, hey, we want to set something up. I ended up getting
an interview?
Yeah. And it was, they're like, oh yeah, we want to start you. Six Flags was during the morning basically, and then Chipotle was in the afternoon. So I had to work both of those for like a good 3 solid months.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Oh God, it was horrible.
I would have eaten the chips and guac and then rode the roller coasters.
Oh man, it was so bad. Working, like, I had to work games. So the people I, upset because I wouldn't just sell them a toy or sell them the stuffed animal. Sometimes I would see at Chipotle a few hours later, and then they're like, oh, can I get this? I'm like, no. Like, oh, can you just give me a little bit extra? I'm like, nope, I got a serving size I need to follow. Get moving.
Yeah. So no job, feeling like your friends aren't very connected to you, not finding fulfillment, and then all of a sudden 2 jobs.
I met who is now my wife online.
Oh.
Yeah, that's still funny to me. My buddy, once I started working again, of course, my friends kind of floated back. They're like, hey, we see you're doing better.
Yeah, as they do.
And my buddy Jared, he was kind of the ladies' man. But he's like, hey, this is where, this, it wasn't like Match.com or eHarmony. It was just like some, like, OK Cupid or some
Plenty of fish.
Yeah. I think I was on that as well. And I matched with this girl, and we started talking, and it was just kind of funny because she lived here in Elgin, where I live now. She drove an hour north almost every weekend, and we ended up dating. And then my dad and I we were getting ready to lose our house because he was out of work. So he was like, you know what, you can go ahead and move. And that was kind of the turning point with the parent, is once, we're both hotheads. I get my anger issues from him. And once I was out of his face 24/7, I can probably call him after this if I wanted to, and we could have a full hour conversation about our days at work. We both work like similar jobs, so we get it. But it's definitely getting out of his face was probably the best choice. Her grandpa, who is no longer here, it was because of him I was able to move into this house. So, we always joke around that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be down here. I'd probably still be at my dad's.
Because you moved to live with her?
Yep.
Okay.
Because we needed a place to go.
How long were you guys dating before you moved in together?
About a little over a year.
Oh my gosh, you're so good.
We were ready. We were mentally ready.
Yeah.
As of like at like 10 months. We're just like, we were both looking at apartments, but then I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to afford this on Chipotle pay. But yeah, after a little over a year, I think I moved down here July of 2013. Something like that.
You met her like pretty soon after your mental health episode.
Yeah, I think I was I think I was working just, Chipotle afterwards. Like Six Flags ended for the season. They didn't ask me to come back for the Halloween, which is probably good. I would have went crazy. And yeah, I was just doing my normal thing. And, of course, I'm like, I think it's funny because she always, since I've mentioned she's a hairstylist, so she's always like, oh, what color should I put in my hair? I'm like, put the blue back in your hair that was on your profile picture when I first met you.
Oh,
But she won't do it.
that's sweet. So did you still kind of have some residual depression symptoms, or after you got your employment back and you met your beautiful, wonderful now wife and you kind of started rolling back into life the way that you wanted it to, did those things just kind of go away, or?
Oh, they're definitely like I'm not gonna lie. Some of the stuff is definitely still there. Here I am 8+ years later, but it's not as bad as it was. You know, I definitely still feel like there are times where I feel like I have no friends. Um, it's always you see all these other people that you're all mutually friends with making plans, and you're just kind of there. But I also know like the two people that helped me move down here, um, they're basically the bros. My friends Tim and Octavio, they helped me move down here, but all three of us have that mutual understanding. We're busy. We all have jobs. They know I'm married. Basically have a family. You know, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but to the listeners,
Babies. Hi, babies.
he is right there. That's Theodore. He's waking up from a nap.
Oh,
I don't know where she's at.
I love a good fat cat.
Oh, he's a chunk. It's like he's gotten fat over the years. Like I'll try and see if I'll send you some pictures after this of when he was a baby. But they all understand. I'm busy. Like I don't always have the time, and they're up north. Usually, when I'm up there to see, holidays, or my dad's like, "Hey, come up for lunch on the weekend." So they still live up there where I used to live. So we're just all busy. But there's definitely times where, if I still felt like I'm not good enough. Like, is this really happening? There's always like when something seems too good to be true, it's like, is this really still happening?
Yeah.
And those feelings, the dark thoughts, those did go away, but it's all the little ones like, do I really belong here? There are times at Chipotle where like I felt like I wasn't wanted there. Like I was the only person who didn't speak Spanish. Like one of the only people. And I could be wrong, but it felt like there were times where I felt like they were talking about me because I would turn the corner and then they would just stop talking. So it's like, well, either that's coincidence or you guys were talking about me, one of the two. So then, situations like that, you're just like, all right, I don't feel welcome here. So it's like those feelings never 100% went away, but they never lingered for too long.
Yeah. So I'm interested to know, and then we'll get to the closing questions. But what do you do now? Any tools, strategies, interventions that you use to kind of reduce those symptoms or just like cope with them?
Music, almost 100% music. I would say probably about 98, between 90 and 98% music, 1% the cats and 1% the wife. And I know I can always talk to her, but you put on like your favorite record, like right now, my go-to record and I think it drives her nuts because of this media page. I managed to get it a month or two early. Was this record, "The Sea of Tragic Beasts" by Fit for an Autopsy. I've had it on repeat almost every single day since the day I received the promo. And it's just one of those records, like, it just hits you. You don't know why, but you can tell it makes you feel things, like every emotion. But it's a record you can put on and just forget. And then, like, because of this page too, I've gone to a lot more concerts now. I used to win tickets from our local radio station, 95.1, all the time. So I've seen bands like Five Finger Death Punch, All That Remains, a couple other bands as well. I think I saw Rob Zombie a couple times because of them. So, music has always played a huge part. But what I look forward to, if I'm having like a tough time, I'm like, all right, when's the next show I'm going to? Okay, cool. Now, like I'm going to one next Wednesday. And granted, I'm going to be hopefully doing some stuff for the page, but it's like, that time I'm there. You see, like, if you see videos of like a metal show, it looks chaotic. It looks angry. It just looks like everyone's beating the literal shit out of each other.
Do you crowd surf?
Not anymore, because I am now 260 pounds. So I would feel weird crowd surfing.
But have you done that?
Oh yeah, I've done it before.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling.
Is it? I
It-
don't want that many hands all over me. That's weird.
It's weird, but it's weird when you think about it before and after. But during, because usually when you're crowd surfing, members of the band are like focusing on that crowd surfer, especially if you're the only one. Like, I remember it was during a Five Finger Death Punch show, I'm probably gonna get a lot of shit for, I used to be a Five Finger Death Punch fan because they were angry just like I was. And I was crowd surfing during one of their songs back when I was still like 220 pounds. And the security guard, he grabbed me, but my shin came down and hit the crossbar of the barrier. So I have a gnarly, like, not gnarly, but I have a nice little scar in my shin now because of that day.
Yeah.
But I remember shaking hands with the vocalists during that.
Oh, that's cool.
Because he was like, I remember him saying he's like, hey, everybody get up here. I want to shake every single person's hand that crowd surfs. So I was like, well, time to go. And when you go to a show, regardless of the genre, but for me, of course, metal, it's the 15 day, like 5 hours or so you're there. Like, I forget, that I got pissed off at my job. I forget that I had an argument with my wife, or that I have a car payment due, or just any issue. You just forget, because those artists are there to, one, play their music for the fans, but they even say the same thing when they get on stage. They forget, like, that's their release. So music has always played a huge part, and that's why I kind of started the review thing too. Is music has just always been a huge part, and because of that, I've done things I never thought I would.
Yeah.
I've interviewed members I never would have imagined I'd, sit down with. I got phone numbers in my phone that I never thought I would have. So music is definitely the biggest majority of what, keeps me sane.
Yeah.
If I didn't have metal specifically, I feel like I'd probably be a troublemaker.
I definitely see that like deep sense of purpose that it gives you. So that's cool. It's really awesome to see, people living fulfilled, purposeful lives. I just love that.
Yeah, if like I said, I encourage people. Like I've had people they're like, "Hey, I want to find heavier stuff for like metal. Like they'll listen to like Korn or Metallica and all that stuff, which is cool. Like I still listen to Metallica all the time. But like I want to find something heavier. It's like, all right, what do you want? What don't you want? Because I guarantee I can find you something. So when people are like, or outside ears, people who don't listen to metal at all, it's like, what? Why do you listen to that? How do you understand? It's the biggest one. How do you understand what they're saying? Well, personally, for me, I read the lyrics along with it because I want to be able to scream them back at the show. Or you get used to it, you end up understanding what they're saying after a while.
Yeah, you just start to hear it.
Yeah.
Because to me, it would just be a bunch of yelling.
Which, to an extent, you're not wrong. Like, that's a whole debate. Not even debate, but that's like a whole thing we can get into. Because, like, each genre touches on, like, it hits somebody in a different way. Like, I know people who love country.
I love country.
I can't stand it.
I love it.
And like they're, one of my coworkers, he can't stand half the stuff I listen to.
Yeah.
Like I listen to a lot of stuff as what people call it. The vocals sound like a flushing toilet, as they call it. So, they can't stand it. And I get it. But I always encourage people, like, try and, like, just music. Yeah. Like, when I read, like, how my friends kind of came around, I tend to have a knack of messaging people when something's going on, and, like, I don't even know it. So it's just listen to your favorite music, put on your favorite record, shut your phone off, put on your favorite Alan Jackson CD or whatever. I'm trying to think of country.
Thomas Rhett. Thomas Rhett is where it's at.
And like, just put on your favorite record and just go take a bath, take a shower, go to sleep. Like, you're gonna wake up tomorrow.
Let's get to those closing questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. What is one thing that you have coming up that you are looking forward to, other than your concert? Because you already told us that.
Well, I don't even know if I'm actually sponsoring. Like, I might be sponsoring Michigan Metal Fest again this year.
Oh, cool.
Which is huge. Like, I don't know yet. I got three other photographers, and we're all going to split it, of course. But that's something I'm looking forward to. My wife and I, we went to a benefit that her salon kind of sponsored, or was at least one of the major sponsors of. And we ended up winning what was supposed to be a weekend getaway at some lodge up in upper Wisconsin. But the people who own it actually have known my wife for a long time. So when her friend found out that we won it, she told her parents, and her parents like, "Oh, you guys can just have it for a week."
Oh, cool.
So we don't know when that's coming, and not in the immediate future. And I don't want to jinx it, but I already have my hopes up. For my 30th birthday next year, the wife wants to take me to Disney so I can go to Star Wars.
Yes, you're gonna die. It's so good.
And we want to stop at Harry Potter, and I know when we stop at Harry Potter, I'm gonna cry.
Oh my God! I just lost it. What house were you sorted into?
I think on that Pottermore, I was sorted into Ravenclaw.
Okay, yeah, I'm a Ravenclaw too. Okay, that's another podcast episode. I'm gonna have to start a new Harry Potter podcast or something.
I'm in.
What is one thing that you want people to know about mental health?
Whatever your choices are or you're thinking of, sleep on it. Yeah. That's kind of the biggest one. Don't do anything out of like in a rash decision out of anger, because you will make a consequence that shatters people. I guarantee, I almost feel like if I would have done what I wanted to, my dad probably would have done the same thing. Because, alcohol alters people. It would have, and if I would have done that, I wouldn't have met the people I have. We wouldn't be doing this right now. I wouldn't have done anything. So I advise people, just relax, sleep on it. You will feel different tomorrow.
Perfect advice, my friend. Last question. What is one reason to stay alive today?
Look at what's in front of you. You may be struggling, of course, but it's one of those things you also got to think there are other people who have it much worse than you. I may feel like I'm struggling financially right now, or even in general, but I think about it and I'm not. Like I'm actually okay. But there are people out there who don't have money. There are people who don't have homes, don't have cars, don't have food or clothes. It's one of those things you got to be grateful for what you have. And sometimes you take it for advantage or take advantage of it, but it really does boil down to you have to pay attention to what's in front of you, who is still there, who does come around. Otherwise, like, you're going to end up making a rash decision and making a decision that will forever change your life and everything's.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. I so enjoy sharing these stories with you and being a part of all of us talking about recovery. It's such a gift that people come and talk to me, whether in person or by Skype, and allow me to share with you their journey with mental health and the way that it's impacted them. The work that you're all doing with us is helping to reduce stigma and normalize mental health struggles, and that truly means the world to me. If you would like, you can follow our podcasting journey as well as some of the other things that we're up to on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook at A Brand for the Broken. Those links are all included in the show notes as well, so you can see that there. As always, I would love if you would rate, review, and subscribe to our show. Your continued support through telling your friends and family about the podcast is so important because it helps us share the stories and ultimately keep people living. It also helps us to find guests who might be interested in sharing their story. If that might be you, please reach out to us and I will get back to you as soon as I am able. You can send us a message through any of our social medias or at stayaliveinc.org. Okay, friends, thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to share our next episode.